we said the president would sign legislation to force ByteDance to sell TikTok, but has the president spoken with senators to ask them to vote for the bill, and is the White House encouraging the Senate to move on this quickly?
So we welcome the bill. We said that before it, while it was going through the House, when it came out of the House. This is a divestment. This is not about banning TikTok. That's how we see this bill. That's how it's written. And so obviously we have provided technical support for this legislation. It's in the Senate now. The Senate is taking a look at it. I don't have any calls to read out that the president has had with any members of the Senate or Congress or congressional members on this particular piece of legislation. But look, we welcome it. We think it's important to this legislation, which is a divestment bill, not a ban. And so I'll just leave it there.
I think when you first spoke to the TikTok legislation at the briefing, you mentioned the legal issues that the White House had raised and were working out with the sponsors. Have those technical issues, legal issues been fixed?
So I don't have an update for you on that. Obviously, we think that's important, right? And we're providing those technical assistance, as I just mentioned. I just don't have an update on where they are in that process. But it's in the Senate. The Senate is looking at it. We welcome the bill. We think it's important to deal with them. And I think this is something that the National Security Advisor said, right, just last week, which is it is incredibly important to know where data lives, where privacy data, American data lives. Does it live here or does it live in China, right? When you talk about ownership, is ownership here or is ownership in China? And we want to make sure that we're able to protect. It's about national security, right? Protect that data. And so that's what you're seeing. It's a divestment. It's not a ban. And so we are providing technical support. Now it's in the Senate. And so we'll let that process move forward. Don't have anything else to share.
The White House think what's going to happen to TikTok? Because even if the bill makes it to the president's desk, the Chinese government needs to approve it, which they're likely not to. It could also face significant legal pushback. So what does the White House ultimately think is going to happen with TikTok?
I mean, I can't get into, predicting here, right? What we have been very clear about is this bill is important, and we welcome this step in ongoing efforts to address the threat posed by certain technology, right? Services operating in the United States put these services put Americans' data at risk. You heard the National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan, speak to this on Tuesday. It is important for us to have an understanding, right, where this American data is going. Do they live here or do they live in China, for example? He said that, right? Is their ownership here or is it in China, for example? And so those are really important. And so that's why we welcome that bill. This isn't a divestment bill. It's not a ban. I'm not going to get into hypotheticals here. It's going through the process. We're going to offer technical support as it moves, obviously, from the House into the Senate. But we welcome this bill, and this is about our national security. That's what this is about.
Follow up on the TikTok question. The president brought it up with President Xi.
Yeah, he did.
Has he also raised the issue with Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer? Because the bill hasn't been taken up by the Senate. I mean, that's where it is held up. Has he conveyed those same concerns about ownership, about divestiture, to Schumer?
So look, we are in regular communication. This administration is with leaders of Congress, including Senator Schumer, Leader Schumer, and others. And so I don't have a specific readout to give you about the president's conversation on this particular issue. As my colleague, as the Admiral said, the TikTok did come up and was raised on the call with President Xi. I think that's important. The president has always been very clear about his concerns, and he's been very public about that. There is a real threat posed by certain technology services. And so operating in the United States that put at risk Americans' personal information and broader national security. He's been very clear about that, including the manipulation. So he's been public about it. He brought it up with President Xi. This is an issue, certainly, that we will continue to have that discussion. I just don't have anything specific to read out to you with any conversations with members of Congress on the president.
Does he want the Senate Majority Leader to bring the bill to the floor?
We have said we support that bill. We welcome that bill. We do not see it as a ban, right? We see it as a divestment. We've been very clear about that as well, and we welcome that bill. So we want it to go through the process. We've been offering technical support, as you've heard us speak to before. You've heard the National Security Advisor speak to this very recently, the last time he was at the podium. You've heard me say that. And so we're going to continue to provide technical support. We're going to continue to have conversations with members of Congress. Don't have anything else to share behind that.
Is TikTok part of the conversation today?
TikTok came up today, yes.
More details about the conversation on TikTok?
The president reiterated our concerns about the ownership of TikTok. He made it clear to President Xi that this was not about a ban of the application, but rather our interest in divestiture, so that the national security interests and the data security of the American people can be protected.
If President Biden is concerned enough about TikTok to bring it up on a call with the president of China, why is he and why is the vice president, why are they still making videos for TikTok?
That's coming out of the campaign, so I would refer you to the wait, that's, I understand. It is the campaign's decision. I would refer you to the campaign. We have been very clear. We are not trying to ban TikTok. We're not trying to ban TikTok. We're talking about a divestment. You heard that from the National Security Advisor when he's been here a couple times at the podium speaking to TikTok and the legislation and how we're trying to move forward. It is a platform that we really need to take seriously here. We're talking about our national security. And so we've talked about not banning, divesting. Not banning, divesting. So we want to be very clear about that. Go ahead.
Thanks, Nick. This bill gives ByteDance 270 days to sell TikTok due to those national security concerns, which could lead to a national ban. In the meantime, is it safe for President Biden's campaign and any other political entity to be on TikTok?
So I'm going to let campaigns decide for themselves what they're going to do. The terms of the bill are straightforward. TikTok continues to operate as it is right now until such time as either there is divestment or the time that you referred to elapses. And so what we're focused on right now in implementing the bill is working through that divestment in a way that is consistent with the intent of the law and consistent with the national security concerns that brought the law into force in the first place.
If you had an elevator pitch, there was 170 million Americans who use TikTok right now. What is the simple statement to those Americans right now who are saying the President of the United States just proposed or signed legislation that could ban a platform that I rely on in some cases for my livelihood?
I think I would just say what I've been repeating here from this podium for the past few minutes here, which is this is not a ban. This is about divestment. This is about our national security. We are not saying that we do not want Americans to use TikTok. That is not what we're protected. And that is what this is about. And so we believe this law will get us there. We believe that we will be able to divest, that TikTok would be able to divest. We believe that there is interest in folks who want to buy TikTok, and we want to get there. We want to get there. The president wants to protect Americans, and he wants to protect American privacy. He wants to protect Americans from a country in this instance that wants to potentially do us harm, and that's what he believes is important. We're not saying we do not want TikTok to exist. We're not saying that we do not want Americans to use TikTok. We want to make sure that it's done in a way that we protect our national security and that we protect Americans.
TikTok, now that the president has signed the bill, does the White House have a preference as to whether TikTok gets sold and remains operational in the U.S., or are you indifferent about whether it gets banned or sold?
Well, first of all, we've been very clear. Members of Congress have been very clear. We do not want to see a ban. This is not about a ban. This is about divestment, selling, right, being sold. This is about our national security. This is not concerns about Americans using TikTok. This is about PRC ownership, right? This is about the control of TikTok. And so I want to be super, super clear. And so that's what members of Congress moved forward with. That's what we supported. So we wanted to see a divestment. We want it to see it being sold, and we do not seek a ban. That is not what this bill is about, or this now law is about.
Thanks, Karine. You say it's not about a ban, but the reality is that finding a buyer for TikTok will be incredibly difficult, and the Chinese government also could intervene and block a sale. So if it came to it, would the administration then support a ban as the legislation is written?
So here's I think I want to be, as it relates to China, they should allow it, right? They should allow it to be sold. That's what I'll say there. As it relates to the bill, the law now, there's time. We got to see how this plays out. We believe that it is possible. There are already American investors who are willing and are interested in buying TikTok. So the interest is there. It's not like there isn't any. And so we're going to see. There's time. There's certainly time on the books to see how this plays out. We do not. This is not a ban. Again, this is about divestment, and that's what we want to see.